There is a list going around of forgotten countries where you can supposedly live free. Beaches nobody has heard of, rent for the price of a sandwich, a life with no landlord and no winter. I watched the whole thing twice, and then I did what I always do. I went down and read what the people who actually lived in those places wrote underneath it. My name is Hank Ross. I am 70, and I live off the grid, at the end of a road the plow does not come down. Let me knock the legs out from under my own title before we go one step further. Not one place on that list is free, not one. The cheapest honest month I have ever heard of anywhere, including my own hill, still costs about $600, and if somebody is selling you a number under that, they are selling you a picture and leaving out the bill. Before I get into it, tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight. Montana, Alabama, Ontario, England. I do not care how far out you are. I like knowing who is out there. I read every one of them. Now here is the part that got my attention. That video has better than 250,000 views, and the top comment under it, with more likes than most channels get on a whole video, was one line: "Freedom is not free, it is very expensive." Nobody was trolling. The man who wrote it had been and gone and come home carrying the receipts, and 88 other people knew that feeling well enough to put their thumb on it. When the audience of a video argues with the video and wins, the comment section is the better documentary, and it is free. So let us walk the same 5 places, except this time we take the residents with us. The first is Cape Verde, a string of volcanic islands sitting in the Atlantic a few hundred miles west of Senegal. It is genuinely beautiful. Black sand, gold sand, wind that will scour the worry off you. Here is the number nobody in that video said out loud. A viewer who has priced it put a single person's monthly expenses at about $785, and that is before rent. Before rent. At a modest place and you are near $1,300 a month, in a country where the power goes out and the internet has opinions about whether you work today. Is $1,300 a month bad? No. It is roughly what my property taxes, fuel, propane, and food run me in a year and a half, and I own my ground, which is the whole argument, and we will get there. The second is Comoros, in the Indian Ocean between Madagascar and the African mainland. Quiet, warm, more goats than tourists, and I mean that as praise. But ask yourself the question one commenter asked, because it is the sharpest thing in that entire comment section. If these places were as good as the list says, would they not be crowded? People are not stupid. Places stay empty for reasons, and the reasons are usually medical care, work, and how hard it is to get out in an emergency. The third is São Tomé and Príncipe, 2 islands in the Gulf of Guinea that grow some of the best cacao on this earth. Sounds like heaven, and I would visit tomorrow. Living there is a different animal. Bureaucracy that moves when it feels like it, imports that arrive whenever, and a hospital situation that a 70-year-old man with a bad knee ought to think very hard about. The fourth is Timor Leste, which shares an island north of the Australian coast and sits at the eastern end of the Indonesian chain. And here a man who had actually been on the ground said the thing flat out: Timor Leste is not cheap. Take it from somebody who has been there. That is a direct contradiction of the whole premise, sitting right under the video, with dozens of people agreeing. The fifth is Belize, and this is where the comment section stopped being polite. One fellow lived there a year and a half and wrote that crime was through the roof, that he knew people who were attacked, that he watched drugs sold openly on the street. Another, who has spent extended time there, said plainly that Belize is more expensive than the rest of Central America and more expensive than Mexico. 70-some people agreed with the first man, 24 with the second. So what is really being sold in a video like that? Not a country. A feeling. The feeling that there is a door out of the arithmetic. And I understand the pull of it, because I bought that same feeling myself, only I bought it in America and it still cost me more than I planned. Here is what those lists always leave out, and it is 4 things. 1. The visa. Nearly every one of these places wants proof of income or a lump sum in a local bank before they will let you stay past a tourist stamp. That is money that sits still, doing nothing for you, sometimes $5,000, sometimes $25,000, in a bank whose deposit insurance you have never read. 2, and this is the one that should stop every American over 65 in his tracks. Medicare does not travel. It does not cover you overseas except in a few narrow situations. So the retiree who moves to the islands to save $400 a month on rent is buying private international coverage or paying cash, and at our age the premium is not small. I have watched a man come home from Central America at 74 because of a heart valve, and he came home broke. 3. The flights. Not the vacation flight, the funeral flight, the grandchild flight, the emergency flight bought on a Tuesday with no notice. 2 of those a year is thousands of dollars, and nobody puts it in the monthly budget because nobody wants to imagine the reason. 4. The title. In more places than not, a foreigner cannot own land outright, or can own it only through an arrangement that depends on a lawyer you met once. I have never yet met a man who lost a paid-off American parcel to a paperwork trick. I have met 2 who lost money overseas. So does that mean stay put and forget it? Not even close. It means the free life is real, but it is closer to home than the map suggests, and it is bought with a number, not a dream. If you are getting something out of this, hit subscribe. I put one out every week, and I would rather you catch the one that matches your own situation than have to go digging for it later. Now let me show you how it actually pencils. Cheapest first, and I will use real places and real dollars, because a plan without a number is just a mood. Number 1. Raw land in a county nobody is fighting over. In parts of Costilla County, Colorado, 5 acres has traded for $4,000 to $7,000. Out in Elko County, Nevada, and in the country around Presidio County, Texas, you can still find 20-acre pieces in the low 5 figures. The Ozark counties in Arkansas, Fulton and Izard, run higher because there is water and trees are what you are really buying. Buy the land outright. Do not finance the ground you intend to be free on. A payment is a landlord with better manners. Number 2, water. And this is where the dreaming stops for most people. A drilled well in the Mountain West can run $8,000 to $18,000, and you do not know the price until the driller stops. Hauling water is the cheap way. 300 gallons in a tank in the truck bed, $40 to $80 a month at the fill station in town. And the real cost is that you now think about water every single day of your life. I hauled for 2 years. It taught me more about myself than I strictly wanted to know. Number 3, the roof over it. A used travel trailer is $3,000 to $8,000 and it will be cold. A small cabin you build yourself out of ordinary lumber runs $15,000 to $35,000 if you do the work and buy nothing fancy. That is a real number, not a magazine number, and it assumes you are not paying anyone by the hour. Number 4, power. Here is the good news, and it is the best news in this whole episode. A 4-panel system with a decent battery and an inverter, enough to run lights, a laptop, a freezer, and a well pump if the pump is modest, comes in around $3,000 to $6,000 installed by yourself, and it is cheaper this year than it was 5 years ago. That is a one-time cost that ends your electric bill for the rest of your life. And that satellite dish everybody argues about in the comments does work, and it does cost about $120 a month, and it is the single best money an old man out here spends, because it is how I talk to my daughter. Number 5, and this is the line item that surprises everybody who has only ever rented. Taxes and insurance. 20 acres with a small cabin in the counties I named. Property tax runs anywhere from about $90 a year to $600, and I want you to notice how small that is next to a single month of rent anywhere in America. Insurance is the harder one. Plenty of carriers will not write a policy on an owner-built cabin with a wood stove and no fire hydrant within 5 miles. Some men out here carry nothing and accept it. Some carry a small policy on the contents only. Hank, my neighbor, asked me last fall, what happens if it burns? I told him the truth. I rebuilt it myself out of the same lumber, because the whole structure cost less than 2 years of rent in Bozeman. Number 6, and this one has no price tag, which is exactly why it gets skipped. Company. Out here you can go 11 days without seeing a face if the weather turns, and I have. Some men find that is the thing they were looking for their whole lives. Some find out in February that they needed people more than they needed quiet, and there is no shame in either answer. But you had better learn which one you are before you sell the house in town. That is the real reason those island countries stay empty, by the way. Not the internet, not the goats. People. Number 7, the one that cost the most and that nobody puts on a list, the medical drive. Out here I am 1 hour and 10 minutes from a hospital that can actually do something for a heart attack. When you price a parcel, Price that drive, because that drive is the number your children will ask you about, and they will be right to ask. And if none of those counties suit you, there are two more worth a look that almost never make a list. The far end of Aroostook County, Maine, where woodland parcels still trade cheap and the winter does the filtering for you. And the interior counties of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where 40 acres with a 2-track and standing timber can be had for what a new pickup costs, and where the well drilling is shallow and reasonable because the water is close to the surface. Cold is the price in both. Cold is an honest price. It is posted on the sign, and it never surprises you in the third year the way a foreign residency rule can. So how do you check a piece of ground before you spend $1 on it? Call the county planning office and say this, word for word. Is there a minimum dwelling size on this parcel, and do I need a septic permit before I am allowed to camp on my own land? Then be quiet and let them answer. Those two questions separate the counties where you can actually live from the counties that will let you buy and then hand you a stop work order in September. In some places, the answer is a friendly nobody cares. In others, there is a 1,500 square foot minimum and a permit before your camper can sit there 30 days, and the man selling the parcel will never mention either one. And there is one more thing to check before you sign, which almost nobody does. Drive the road in March. Not in July when the aspens are out and the realtor has the windows down. March, when the frost comes out of the ground and the road turns to grease. I have watched two families buy in summer and discover in spring that the last 2 miles are impassable 8 weeks a year, which means no propane truck, no ambulance, and no leaving. The parcel does not tell you that. The road does, and only in the ugly month. Ask the neighbors too. Knock on the nearest door and ask how long the power stays out when it goes, and who plows. In 9 years, I have never met a rural neighbor who would not answer that question for a stranger. Hank, one of them said to me the first week I was up here, "If you are still here in April, we will talk about a gate key." He meant it kindly, and he meant it as a test, and both of those were fair. Here is my part in this, and I am not proud of it. My first year out here cost more than my last year in town. Every bit of it was my own doing. I bought a used generator instead of panels, because panels felt like a big check to write, and I burned about $1,100 in fuel that winter running that generator to keep a freezer cold. I sold a chest freezer full of elk to buy the panels I should have bought in the first place. So when I tell you the free life has a bill, I am not repeating something I read. I am reading you my own. Now think about your own situation for a minute and be honest with yourself. If the land is paid for and the panels are up and the taxes are $300 a year, what does your month actually cost? For me, it is food, propane, fuel, the satellite, and insurance. It lands between $500 and $700 most months in Montana, in a country everyone tells you is unaffordable. That is the whole trick. It is not a beach, it is the absence of a payment. And here is the fork I want you to sit with. If somebody put $90,000 in your hand tomorrow, do you take it to Cape Verde and rent for 6 or 7 years until it runs out? Or do you buy 20 acres, a used trailer, a solar setup, and a water tank, and own the rest of your life outright? There is no cowardly answer. One of them buys you an ocean. The other one buys you the mailbox that never has a bill in it. I know which one I picked, and I know exactly what it cost me in warm weather and in company. I will tell you the thing I never say in these. The winters are long, and the second one nearly took me back to town. What kept me was a neighbor 11 miles off who plows his own road and mine when he feels like it, and has never once let me pay him for it. He wants elk steaks and an hour of talk. That is the whole arrangement, and it has been 9 years. So here is what I want from you, and I mean it. Go find the county you have been quietly looking up when nobody is around. Get the name of it. Then tell me in the comments the county, the state, and the acreage price you have seen. And if you already made the jump, tell me what your first year actually cost, not what you thought it would. I answer every single one I can get to, and the best of those numbers is going to be the one I open with next week, because a real cost from a real man beats anything I can put in a spreadsheet. Next week I want to take apart the water question properly. Hauled water against a drilled well, over 10 years, with the truck, the fuel, the tank, and the drilling bill all counted. Most people guess wrong on that, and the wrong guess is $8,000. That list of forgotten paradises is not a lie. It is a picture with the price cut off the bottom. The place where you can actually live free is a county you can drive to, and the only thing standing between you and it is a number you have not written down yet. Go write it down.